I'm Veronica Marshall at the Capitol. This week on Senate Spotlight, Minnesota's nuclear moratorium has been in place for the last 3 decades. Is now the time to lift it?
We've got a lot more knowledge and understanding of this technology to be able to do it right and do it safely.
We cannot reach our 100% goals by 2040 without the nuclear that we have on the grid now.
Senators share the pros and cons of expanding nuclear energy in Minnesota, including what it could mean for your wallet. Plus, they're calling it a win-win-win.
We're in the legislative session of bipartisanship. It's really actually fun to see legislators from across the aisle presenting bills together.
Details on the bill that's uniting the Senate, big business, farmers, forestry, and climate advocates. That's coming up.
Senate Spotlight is produced by the Minnesota Senate and Senate Media Services.
There's a tough choice ahead when it comes to making decisions about the future of energy in Minnesota. Experts testify the state's current energy producers will not be enough to handle the load as usage increases. Now, senators are considering the options, such as investing in renewable energy sources like wind and solar, or lifting the nuclear moratorium and expanding the state's nuclear capabilities. I'm now joined by Republican Senator Andrew Mathews, whose bill, Senate File 350, would lift that moratorium. Senator, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, Senator, let's start at the beginning. When people think about nuclear energy, they can often picture the worst case scenarios. So talk me through where we are with nuclear energy in Minnesota and what that looks like.
Yeah, the growth of nuclear energy and the way we have this technology today is a far cry from the bad stories of the past. We think about, whether it's the TV show Chernobyl or some of those disasters that we've experienced almost a century ago now, a long time ago. And we've just come leaps and bounds with safety, with security, with technology advancements, even with our current nuclear generators that we have in Minnesota today at Monticello and in Red Wing. And the next generation, even beyond this, is a step above with even more advanced security, safety features. There's a whole new phase that I believe we're going to move into being called the advanced nuclear reactors or modular reactors that even takes the safety and security protocols in place to a whole new level. So we've come a long ways from these areas where we've had disasters in the past, and I think that we've got a lot more knowledge and understanding of this technology to be able to do it right and do it safely.
Senator, during a recent committee meeting, a testifier said that the demand for energy is going to skyrocket here in Minnesota, practically triple over the next decade. Why is that? And will our current electrical grid be able to handle that?
I think we are going to see a pretty big growth in energy demand. I think there's a few things that are contributing to that. The use of all the data that we use and consume is going to keep growing exponentially. That's why we're seeing a whole bunch of new data centers that are needing to be built all over the country for a large number of different industries because of the amount of data and the electricity that those will consume. AI is going to be a large part of that. I think some other drivers are going to be the growth of electric vehicles is definitely going to contribute to that. The use just to recharge your own electric vehicle is going to increase our energy usage by quite a bit. And so we have seen there is a pretty significant forecast of energy demand that we're going to have in the future. And at the same time, we're talking about decreasing the amount of energy that we're generating. We're retiring a bunch of our larger generating units. Most of our coal units are getting phased out. Even some gas is getting clamped down. And so I keep telling people, I've used this phrase multiple times, if supply is going down and demand is going up, you're going to run right smack into a math problem. So my goal is to find an all-of-the-above approach to increase the options for all different types of energy generation to have supply increase along with the demand.
Yes, please save us from a math problem. We don't do that here. Talking about Minnesota specifically, how would we benefit from utilizing nuclear energy?
Yeah, so Minnesota will benefit from having the nuclear moratorium lifted. by having all of the tools available in the toolbox as much as we can. So we had the 100% mandate law come into effect. I did not support that because I believe that it is going to be increasing costs pretty dramatically by limiting some of the things that we have generating our energy today. Even as we're sitting here, I checked right before coming to this interview, I checked some of the real-time data of energy generation, where it's coming from. So for the MISO grid, which is our regional grid that includes all of Minnesota, even as we're sitting here right now taping this, 70% of the energy that we're using right now comes from 3 sources: coal, gas, and nuclear. And today, right now, we're having a really good high wind energy day. It's having a greater than normal share, but still, even having a good day with some of our renewable energy, wind and solar, we're still very heavily reliant on these strong baseload forms of generation that coal, gas, and nuclear have been. So this is to help have nuclear be one of these options again, since Minnesota is limiting the coal energy and some of these other forms that have been traditional baseload energy. I'm trying to encourage my colleagues to expand. Nuclear is the one good clean energy option left that can be solid, reliable baseload power that's on pretty much 24/7. It's not weather dependent. It's not based on the wind or the sunshine or anything like that. It's going to be the last remaining good, reliable, clean baseload generation that we need to undergird our grid.
Are there risks to lifting the moratorium, though?
Well, nothing can be completely without risk, but I do think that the safety protocols that we've seen help minimize that, because I don't think we're looking at having the risk of, the Chernobyl or 3 Mile Island type disasters that we've had. We even have today some of these, like 3 Mile Island. Microsoft's actively working to repurpose that facility right now. They're partnering with another energy company working on getting it restored and back on the grid to help power all of the data usage that Microsoft and their products are going to be increasing. So I think the same's true for Minnesota. There's definitely always going to be some risk, no matter what form of energy that we use. There's risks in renewable energy, there's risks in gas, but we have some of the strongest safety protocols in place that we ever have that I think definitely will help mitigate and minimize that risk.
Talking about the risks, it brings me to the question, why was the moratorium set in the first place?
The moratorium got put in place back in the 90s, which was well before my time here in the legislature. So I don't know all of what the discussion was at the time. My best guess is that we built 2 pretty significant nuclear facilities in Minnesota around the 70s at Monticello and at Prairie Island down near Red Wing. And I think there was a bit of a concern of like, hey, we don't know how fast this might grow. 2 is enough. They just put the pause button on it at that point. But we're in a much different environment now than even we were back in the 90s. And we are going to need to have more options available for good, strong baseload generation. So I do think the moratorium has outlived its usefulness. We do have strong safety procedures in place. And lifting the moratorium isn't going to make it the Wild West in Minnesota. All of the same procedures are still in place. Every utility company, if they want to build one, is going to have to come with a pretty strong plan. It all has to get reviewed and questioned and approved by the Public Utilities Commission. None of that part is being changed by any of my bills. This is making sure that they even get to have the discussion in the first place. Right now, they're not even allowed to bring a proposal for consideration. So this will allow our companies to decide if this is something they want to propose, then come to our state regulators and have to argue for and prove that it would be the most cost-effective way for providing clean baseload energy to our consumers in Minnesota.
You mentioned cost-effective, and we've already talked about how lifting the moratorium would help our electrical grid. What would it mean for our economy?
It would give us more options. I've continue to advocate for an all of the above energy approach. You know, I'm fine with wind, I'm fine with solar. They are intermittent, weather-dependent energy technologies. And we want to have our lights on, we want our phones to work, we want to access our data on the internet, not just when the sun is shining or when the wind is blowing. So we need these types of strong baseload generation to underpin our grid. And I just want to have all of the options available to us in the toolbox, whether it is nuclear, whether it's more gas that can help fill the gap with some of the weather-dependent renewable energy forms. This is basically to have all of the options available on the table so that we don't have all of our eggs into one basket, allows us for more diversity, and hopefully can help, that competition alone should help be a downward pressure on our costs.
Yeah, so that's how it would benefit consumers. Would it bring down costs?
It would have more of those options available, and it would have the competition. The energy companies would decide, can we best serve our customers with some nuclear? Would it best be with some gas and maybe some more wind and solar mixed in? It gives them more options, and our companies want to help provide good, reliable power at the cheapest price. And so having all the options available as we can, I think, will help with those costs.
Senator, are there any final thoughts you'd like to share on this topic?
I'm running two versions of the bill. I'm doing a full, complete repeal of the moratorium. And I'm also doing a partial repeal in a separate bill that would just partially repeal the moratorium for allowing these smaller nuclear modular reactors to be built. I'm trying to take this as multiple ways to go at this problem. Definitely want as much as we can, but I'm trying to come up with as many creative solutions that we can to get this passed. And I do think we have a chance this year. The support for this has been growing over the years that I've been here, even from ideologically right-leaning groups and ideologically left-leaning groups. There is a growing movement to say, hey, we need to have this as a tool in our toolbox. And I'm hoping that 2025 might just be the year that we can get this done.
All right, thank you, and good luck, Senator.
Thank you so much for having me.
What tools do we have in our toolbox, and how are we using them? Here's a quick look at nuclear energy in Minnesota as it stands now. The state's 2 nuclear plants generated just over 27% of Minnesota's electricity in 2024. That's according to Xcel Energy, who owns and operates the sites. The energy company also says the plants support more than 1,100 jobs, generate nearly $40 million in local taxes annually, and they produce over $1 billion in economic activity every year as well. Cost and reliability are just 2 of the issues senators have to consider when it comes to the state's energy resources. Another topic is the environmental impact of the energy facility and its byproducts. With me now is a senator who keeps the idea of clean energy front and center in this debate, DFL Senator Nick Frentz. Senator, welcome to Senate Spotlight.
Thank you for having me, Veronica. Good to see you.
Thank you. Senator, the push for expanding nuclear energy seems to be tied to the goal of making the state carbon-free by 2040, which is something you have long advocated for. Talk to me about that goal. Who set it? Why are we trying to reach it? And is that even possible?
Well, first of all, thanks for having the discussion. We're looking at carbon-free by 2040, which is a bill I chief authored in 2023 because of basic climate change concerns. The planet's always had an atmosphere which traps heat, but over the industrial age, we're trapping it faster than we would like. And in the same way, we're concerned when a baby's temperature goes from 98.6 to 101.6. We're concerned when it looks like the planet's temperature might go up 2 or 3 degrees. And of course, like the baby, beyond that, now we're really concerned. So satisfied that carbon emissions are the main reason that heat is being trapped, people around Minnesota, around the country, around the world are asking, what are the ways we can reduce carbon emissions? The energy sector had historically been a huge emitter of carbon emissions. Think coal burning and the like. So our 2040 goals are our way in Minnesota to say, in the energy sector, we're going to go to 100% carbon free, or carbon neutral if you like that term better, by 2040. The reason nuclear is having a continued examination is twofold. One, it's a carbon free source. I know we'll talk a little bit about nuclear waste, we'll talk about the risks and rewards, but it is carbon free. So wherever you had nuclear power before, it's got to rise up in the mix that you see for Minnesota. And the second reason, of course, is that Minnesota has a nuclear moratorium, basically preventing the Public Utilities Commission from issuing a certificate of need to even build new nuclear. And there are legislators on both sides of the aisle who are interested in talking about that moratorium and potentially lifting it. That's how we got here today.
You mentioned the nuclear moratorium, and there's a bill out right now that hopes to lift that. But, there are other renewable sources that are currently allowed in the state, like renewable sources such as wind and solar. So talk me through those options, benefits, drawbacks. Are they being considered?
They sure are. Glad to report that wind in particular is growing in our mix in Minnesota. So think of 100% of how we generate energy. Wind is now close to a quarter for some of the utilities. It doesn't require fuel. We don't have to drill in the ground for it. We don't have to mine it in the mountains. It comes basically from wind in the same way solar does. They're intermittent resources. The sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow. So the limitations of wind and solar are that they're not constant. A direct contrast to nuclear, which is a firm resource, meaning it can be dispatched at any time with the flick of a switch. Those are the considerations, and you mentioned cost. That's a big one. While the cost of wind is coming down, causing utilities to buy more of it, the cost of nuclear has bounced around a little bit. And in the last 10 years, other states have seen real cost overruns with nuclear. So whether or not you feel nuclear moratorium should be lifted, there will still be the issue of cost.
You mentioned that for these renewable sources, we don't need fuel, and fuel is a big part of the conversation. Talk to me about that toxic legacy that people say when it comes to nuclear energy, that spent fuel remains radioactive for 200,000 years. Do we have any modern solutions for that waste?
Well, we thought we had a solution in the United States, which you may know is the federal depository at Yucca Mountain in Nevada. But in the 1990s, that idea basically got shut down, and we now don't have a federal solution for the storage of nuclear waste, leaving the states, those that are interested in nuclear, to fend for themselves. Here in Minnesota, what we've done for Xcel Energy, which is the only utility that uses nuclear, is we've allowed them to store it at Prairie Island, where the Prairie Island Indian community is now the closest community in the country to nuclear waste. The concerns we have are the ones you mentioned, which is that it has a radioactive life of about 200,000 years. So a state senator would have to be reelected about 50,000 times in order to be around for the end of that. And we're concerned in the same way we're concerned by people who live on the side of volcanoes or who live where forest fires are an issue. We are not expecting things to happen, but they do sometimes. And so it poses health risks for those that are not exposed to nuclear radiation. There are no health risks. And of course, the vast majority of the country has not had any exposure whatsoever.
Yeah, you just brought up health risks, and that was something that a testifier brought up during a recent committee meeting. What data do we have on the health risks posed by nuclear energy?
We have some, and the exposures which can increase the risk of leukemia come almost entirely from those that are seeing prolonged exposure to radioactivity. A person who's nearby a nuclear disaster, Chernobyl, Fukushima, for example, or someone who's been exposed for an extended period of time to radioactivity in a nuclear facility, like volcanoes, like being struck by lightning, the numbers of those people is extremely low. But for them, it poses a serious health risk. Each of our energy comes with certain risks. When we mine coal, we have trucks that go back and forth. They get in accidents sometimes. We have other risks that we bear the cost of, and we're trying to balance those with all our energy sources.
We talked about health risks to people, but talk to me about the environmental impacts we might see if nuclear power was expanded here in Minnesota.
Well, for context, we run 2 nuclear facility sites, Monticello and Prairie Island, with 3 reactors total. They account for a significant percentage of the energy produced for Xcel Energy, which is the state's largest utility and investor-owned, meaning they run it for profit as opposed to a municipal electric company or a rural electric co-op, which I'm a member of in North Mankato. The the way that we look at those risks are similar to the country France, where they have, I think, 18 nuclear reactors, and they sit next to Germany, which has 0. France says, yes, we have risk, but that risk is worth the benefit. Germany says, we prefer not to take that risk. And right now, Germany's electric costs are higher, in some places significantly, so consumers, which is a translation for humans, voters, taxpayers, whatever you like, are making their own decisions, and most of the constituents in Minnesota are interested in nuclear, notwithstanding concerns about cost.
You mentioned some of those risks. Are there any recent innovations that we can point to that has made nuclear energy safer?
Great question. Yeah, over the last 30 years, as those disasters in Chernobyl and Fukushima have come to the front of the public consciousness, first of all, light has been shined on the fact that American historical safety is already somewhat advanced. Think double walls, things that prevent radiation from escaping, even if there is a core meltdown. So American nuclear reactors had advantages already over Chernobyl in particular. With those disasters and with what humanity's learned from them, there's innovations in the way we recycle nuclear waste. There's innovations in the monitoring, think artificial intelligence, to try to prevent the worst disasters from happening. And I would analogize those to the same safety improvements we've had in a lot of areas of American life, automobiles, manufacturing. We're safer, we're just not entirely safe.
Watching these committee meetings and listening to testifiers, it's a highly passionate topic for people on both sides. What do you say to those people who are, sharing their concerns?
Well, I'd say that each one of us is just as important as every other one of us. So those that are more opposed to nuclear, I don't try to talk them out of it. I'd say, welcome to the committee. Please present your testimony. Like the unknown for humans, think of a 5-year-old who's a little more worried about a monster under the bed at night than a bowl of ice cream. Humans are worried about nuclear. We've had nuclear bombs dropped on humans in this planet in the last 100 years. And so people worry. And the fact that some worry more than others, that's part of the deal here at the Capitol. And it's part of why we try to get all the voices out in front. The majority of Minnesotans are cautiously optimistic that nuclear will be a part of our mix. And you probably know, Veronica, we cannot reach our 100% goals by 2040 without the nuclear that we have on the grid now.
Senator, what do you think will happen in this space this session?
I think you'll see movement towards nuclear. I'm not positive, and I chair the committee, so we have proposals to have so-called advanced nuclear be studied. That actually passed the Senate Energy Committee that I chair last year unanimously. Every Democrat and every Republican said, let's study advanced nuclear, sometimes called small modular nuclear. I think that'll be in the Senate omnibus bill. There are other bills which would entirely lift the moratorium. That's less certain and would require the consent of not just Prairie Island, but Xcel Energy has said, without Prairie Island support, they too would not support it. And as the only operators of nuclear in Minnesota, Xcel Energy's partnership can be pretty important. It will not move without those two parties.
Senator, any final thoughts you'd like to share on this issue?
No, but we encourage people to reach out. Senators and representatives love to get emails. It helps us kind of have a sense of what people think in our districts. So thank you for giving a little bit of time for the subject. Looking forward to seeing the rest of the session play out.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time, Senator.
My pleasure, Veronica.
SAF is going to happen, and we want it to happen in Minnesota. We want it to happen and benefit our farmers.
Do you know what SAF is? Senators say it's an opportunity to improve Minnesota's economy, environment, and international standing. Sustainable aviation fuel, also known as SAF, is getting a new look from senators this session. SAF is a biofuel created with agricultural products, forestry waste, and other renewable sources. Compared to traditional jet fuel, it substantially reduces greenhouse gases and carbon.
If we don't use this, the carbon does go back into the atmosphere. It either burns up or it decays, which is a release. Might be a slow release, but it gets released. So using wood is this kind of closed circle of carbon, as opposed to taking billion-year-old carbon out of the ground and releasing it into the atmosphere. So this just makes perfect sense.
Currently, Minnesota offers a tax credit for SAF created or blended in the state. That tax credit expires in 2030.
In 2023, you all enacted a nation-leading tax credit of $1.50 per gallon for SAF produced or blended in Minnesota. That was a great start, but we know that there's more work to do and more investment that needs to be made to fully develop this nascent industry.
Sustainable aviation fuel, or SAF, is a key tool to meet climate goals in the aviation sector, but current levels of production are too low and insufficient to meet what's needed to meet those goals.
To increase SAF production in Minnesota, DFL Senator Ann Rest has introduced Senate File 1312. The bipartisan bill increases the tax credit and extends it until 2035.
To successfully build a SAF supply chain in Minnesota, farmers and fuel producers need effective, durable, and long-term incentives. By increasing the allocation in the existing tax credit and by extending those through 2035, SF 1312 will help accomplish those goals.
The bill's co-authors and testifiers before the Senate's Tax Committee say increasing SAF production in Minnesota not only helps the state reach its environmental goals, but its economic ones as well.
Here's something that we can do to benefit the climate. What we can also do is to benefit our local economy here in Minnesota, particularly our local farmers, by giving them a new market to sell their crops to.
The goal is to meet not just the demand in Minnesota, but Minnesota airports, but the global demand for SAF, which could reach 50 billion gallons in the future. Setting up SAF production facilities will create thousands of good construction jobs, as well as thousands of jobs to operate the facility once they are up and running.
SAF in Minnesota can create tens of thousands more good jobs. It can add revenue for our agricultural producers, attract billions of dollars in private investment from around the world, add new commercial and industrial tax revenue to the state and cities, and renew our state's reputation as a place capable of solving some of the world's hardest problems.
We want MSP to be the very first airport in the world where we can say every Delta plane that departs has some level of SAF on board. SAF also provides significant opportunities to enhance our country's energy independence right here in the U.S. and spur significant economic development opportunities throughout Minnesota.
After hearing the testimony, senators weighed in.
This is an extraordinary piece of legislation. I don't remember quite the like coming before this committee previously. A significant policy change that has the support of pretty much everybody. It was described early on as a win-win-win, and that was supported by a list of testifiers that nobody spoke in opposition. Very rare that we would have a bill that has the support of the trades, building trades, Delta, all our spectrum of farm organizations, the forestry industry, bipartisan authors, climate advocates, and the governor's cabinet. So compliments to you, Madam Chair, on authoring the bill and to the bipartisan authors for bringing it.
This is a highly competitive area. We are in a great position, but we don't want to lose our competitiveness because our regulatory climate is less innovative than it could be. So as we move forward, I hope we'll make sure we see that regulatory piece as well.
This is another example of bipartisanship this year. We have a permitting reform bill that is authored by myself, Senator Eichhorn across the aisle, as well as Senator Frentz and Senator Kupek. And so I think we're going to see hopefully a lot of success when it comes to permitting reform to make us more competitive as a state.
The Senate Taxes Committee unanimously approved the tax credit bill. It now heads to the Senate floor for a vote. That's all the time we have today. Thank you for joining us, and see you next time.